No, you're just excited?
I'm hungry.
You're hungry? Me too. All right. All right, so welcome to the first episode of Design, Build, Ascend. I have a special guest with me tonight. We are going to be talking about a subject that she's specifically here for. But welcome to the Design, Build, Ascend show. This is your host, John Fox, the lighting futurist. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of the things that you're passionate about over at LPA. But I wanted to sort of introduce you as the lighting associate at LPA Inc. down in Irvine. They are a fully integrated architectural engineering firm based in Irvine, but they have offices in various other cities and states. I think Texas, and where else are they located?
San Antonio, Dallas in Texas, and San Jose, Sacramento, and San Diego, in addition to Irvine here in California.
All right, so we're going to be talking a little. My favorite subject that I wanted to get you in here for, which is to talk about design empathy. And before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about maybe some of the projects that LPA has done with the sort of this integrated design elements. There was something award-winning that you won recently, right?
Last June, we won an award, an IES Merit Award, locally and then also nationally for a project called eSTEM, which is Eastvale STEM Academy out in Eastvale, California. And that is actually an academy within a much larger campus. And it's focused on math, science, health sciences, and trying to give these students a place where they can really learn the trade and learn the ins and outs of the trade. And they have all the latest equipment to work with to really, build their knowledge towards.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at some of these images here. We pulled off your website, and it looks like a hospital. They've got beds in there. They've got some really unique lighting, linear solutions, and some dots, big ceiling fixtures. It's just a nice selection of fixtures and spaces. But you're saying this is at what level is this for? Is this college level?
This is high school.
This is high school. This is an unbelievable facility for a high school level education place. Where is this located again?
It's Inland Empire, Eastvale, California.
And you won a bunch of awards with this, right?
We have won a number of awards. It's a very unique project. It's amazing that a school would support this sort of design program. And the other aspect of this that was really interesting is that there was a lot of stakeholder engagement. So there were meetings with the community members, the staff, the teachers, all of the school board, to find out what they were really looking for. One benefit we feel that we bring to our projects and to our clients is this idea of integrated design, that all of our different disciplines are in-house. And it's such a different world. Instead of, being in your little cubicle and having to call someone up who might be in another state or another town or down the street, but you can actually walk over to their desk and, you can take your little flimsy or scratch paper with you and work out a detail. And it builds a different kind of relationship than just solely over the phone. And granted, we've been in COVID the last year and a half.
I would imagine.
But we'd already built the foundation for that. And so it just kind of carried over through COVID. And I think it offers such a different perspective on our projects. We can come together early on and bring all the members of the design team in schematic together to solve problems and strategize and figure out what's the best structural system for this building and why. And if we do that, how does that implicate, what implications are there for the mechanical system and everything else that goes along, systems in the building. And, just having the architects and the engineers in the same building, you just have different sorts of discussions. And you might be sitting at lunch and have a different discussion that will inform your next project. And so it's sort of it's built into our culture at this point. And I think it's a real differentiator when it comes to producing quality work.
Excellent. I mean, and you've been doing this for LPA for like 10 years now, and that you became an associate at the beginning of this year, I believe. And one of the tasks that you were given at that sort of first round of meetings, what was that like? Where did the and I'm kind of leading the question about design empathy and where that came from.
So our leadership meeting this year in January, this was my first leadership meeting. So I can't say we do this at every meeting, but of course in COVID too, it was a little bit different. But we all broke out into small groups to brainstorm and try to come up with solutions to various problems. Where will our industry be in 10 years? What should we be focused on, 5 years from now as a part of the architectural community? And the group that I was in was asked to assess basically where LPA should be in 10 years. Where are we now and where should we be 10 years from now? What should we be thinking about and focusing on? And we had a lot of discussions in a lot of different directions, but we kept coming back to this concept of design empathy. And the idea being that if you can understand someone else's perspective, that's going to shape how you think and feel about what you're doing. So for example, if I can walk in a mechanical engineer's shoes, I can understand what they're needing from the project and what their concerns are, what their focuses are.
Especially if you don't even know. Like if let's say you're new to the architectural firm, you're an architect, but you're working with some engineers that have been around a while. They've been on job sites a lot, and they know the process for these projects. They may say, the architect may go, hey, can I get this done in a week or maybe in a day? And he goes, I can't get this done in 2 weeks. You're going to have to give me enough time. And if he understood why, maybe that would be, is that the?
Exactly. So as a result of this leadership retreat, there are a few special projects that sort of rise to the top, and focus groups are formed, for lack of a better word. And that group is supposed to focus time on this particular item. In this case, it was coming up with a way to infuse design empathy into what we do. We already have the integrated firm piece. We have all the players in the same building. Well, what's next? Well, we wrapped that idea around the idea of training our new designers. What if you were able to create this sort of residency program, kind of like what you might experience in the medical field, where you go on a series of rotation, you go, have your design, or you have your medical residency, and you experience different fields of medicine.
So this is almost mirrored to the whole medical industry. I didn't even actually realize that. Was that on purpose, or?
It was part of the thought process.
Okay.
And what would it take to create this sort of design residency that would do the same kind of thing?
I like that.
And we started out really big, and it was going to be a year-long program, and you were going to study every discipline for a month, and it would be fully immersive, and there were a lot of...
And you get paid for that, right?
And as amazing as that sounds, there were all sorts of different reasons why we pared back significantly. One of them was obviously the cost. It would be an extremely expensive endeavor to take someone out of their chosen profession and plop them into another career for a year's time.
So what did you guys pare it down to?
We pared it down to 5 meetings for the year. So every other month it would be 1 full day. The morning would be a series of lectures. The afternoon would be the lab portion where you apply what you've learned. So in the morning you're hearing from all the different disciplines. And what we tried to do was model it after a project. So the 5 different meetings, they start with sort of a pre-design, and then the second meeting is schematic, and then design development, construction documents, and then it's sort of the last one is kind of a presenting what you've learned in this sort of graduation piece.
And this is for younger
Correct.
younger people, right? I mean, this is
We're
for someone who's getting into the architecture or into the firm.
into any,
Okay.
mechanical.
Oh, it could be any of them.
Right. So it's designer level, designer 1, designer 2, designer 3. Ideally, the ideal candidate would have worked a year or two at LPA, and one of the reasons there was, imagine, you've just finished your 6-year college degree in architecture, and guess what? You're going to go be a mechanical engineer So
Right.
we wanted to be able to, and also I think just having that little bit of time under their belt, it would
So
help
maybe
them.
not the first thing they do when they get there, but
Correct. So maybe after a year or two, they kind of get the feel of how things go, and then they start to learn, oh, there are a lot more questions I need to ask when I go to this meeting. And so it's kind of to help your brain start going in that
I
direction.
love this. I love this idea.
The other thing we did was in that morning portion in the lectures, so we just didn't have single people siloed speaking their, doing their little lecture piece. We teamed people up. So it's not, the landscape architect talks and then the plumbing engineer talks. And so we grouped, landscape and civil would be the sites team. And so they could work together on their presentation. And the goal was it becomes more of a dialogue and less of a talking at you lecture piece.
Right.
And then we grouped architecture, structures, and interior design because they have kind of a similar role, and there's a lot of functions that they will provide at the same, level of the project. And then the systems would be mechanical, plumbing, electrical, and lighting.
I would imagine this is a lot of work for setting that up for that one meeting, correct?
It
So
is.
you're not going to do that for one employee at a time, are you?
Correct.
Okay.
So what we sort of focused on was that we wanted enough people to make it worthwhile financially for pulling in all these lecturers because that's taking their time. And then, but we wanted it a small enough group so that people would ask questions and it would be more interactive because at this point it's still remote because of COVID.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe by, next May we'll be able to be in person. But we pared that size down to 10. So we have 2 teams of 10. And in the afternoon, basically there's 20 residents in the morning that hear the lectures. And then in the afternoon, they break off into the 2 teams for the lab, 2 teams of 10.
So if at some point you're bringing in employees that are new. So if you've got 10 new employees, what happens if you're slower in your hiring rate, and so you only have 5 that next year? Do you plan on just keeping that process going, or are you adjusting it?
We'll see. This is our first year out of the gate. So
but you have 10 now.
We have 20 now.
Oh, you have 20 now.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And we're pretty well represented across all the disciplines. That was another goal is that, we're very heavy in architecture, right? So we knew we would have more architectural participants, but we did get someone from almost every other discipline. And I think our plan at this time, if all goes well, is to do it every other year, which makes a lot of sense. Plus, it gives us a time to kind of make those final tweaks and changes to improve the program.
Yeah,
figure out what works and what
I
doesn't.
would really like to have another conversation after you've done this a year because I feel like it's such a grand idea where, if you think about it from a medical standpoint, you're digging in and they spend time in that residency going through and learning that specific skill that one person that's an expert in that particular medical field is going to give them. Here, you're giving it a day, and you're splitting it up into a couple of things. I'm hoping that the empathy part is built in there because really, they still need to understand what it takes to do these jobs, and I think maybe that's.
Yes, and so that's.
I know where you're going.
Since we didn't have every discipline represented, we decided to be proactive and assign disciplines with the idea being that if you're an architect, you're not going to be assigned an architectural role.
Okay.
And so you're either going, you might be on the systems team or on the sites team because we felt strongly about the whole aspect of walking in someone else's shoes. You really needed to physically do that, so to speak. And we've had one of these sessions so far in September, one under our belt. It went well. I think the lecturers did a fantastic job they presented, this was our pre-design, the very first one, and they gave an excellent overview of their discipline. And then we do have a list of deliverables in the afternoon. That's what that lab portion is focused on. So the idea is that in the afternoon, you have these 5 or 10 items that you have to produce as a group of 10. And so they've got to work online. They can go offline. They can phone a friend. And they have a whiteboard that they can all contribute to. And so they might be, simultaneously, pulling up the geotech report and solving, this sloping condition over here and trying, it's just,
I love that.
It's really outside your comfort zone. In fact, we did a quick follow-up meeting after the first session, and people were tired afterwards because, getting out of your comfort zone and walking, in a different way and looking at something from a different perspective, it's mentally and physically tiring.
Did you get any feedback, or did you get any comments that you remember?
Well, one person was just wiped out for about 3 hours on the couch, and his wife had to wake him up, and it was tiring. I think it was, it's a lot. It's kind of like going to an intensive seminar for one day that you have to participate in. You're not just sitting back as a listener.
I guess one of the things I love, you don't call it design empathy at your office. What do you guys call it?
What do you mean, call what design
What is
empathy?
the program called?
Oh, it's called the Integrated Design Residency, the IDR.
The IDR. Okay, so we've got an acronym, IDR.
Absolutely.
And Integrated Design Residency. I love that you called it residency. I'm a little disappointed that you lost the word empathy on it, only because I remember when you first went to that meeting, you came home and you're all excited about this new program. And design empathy has implications for all kinds of offices. And I think, from whether you're a manufacturer or you're an agency or you're or a sales team, getting everyone to spend some time in the other elements of the machine that is a company, it's great because I think a lot of people have a hard time understanding what it takes.
Agreed.
Like, what does it take to be the marketing director of a company?